Hello beautiful people. In this request video from Zood, we will take a look at some super secret World War II German stealth tech, which turned out not to be German at all. Hope you enjoy. This is what Zood wrote. Panzer 38A and Do 17 bomber, and Do is short for Donier. Low tier is fun tier, so let's do this. This little family of tank is represented in the top right corner of the German tank tree, and they are all light tanks, and they range from battle rating reserve to 2.0. All three uses a 37mm cannon and can use the same ammo, but the 1.3 version and the 2.0 version have a longer barrel, which means higher velocity, which means more armor penetration. So let's take a look at the super secret German stealth tech, which was not German at all, but it was Czechoslovakian. And it was actually not even stealth tech, it was actually pre-stealth tech. No, it wasn't. It was, yes it was. Never mind. So the funny thing is that the stealth round, which is actually the best round, is the one you're getting by default. And the one you have to actually research, the one that's called UMG. And UMG stands for Umgebaut, which means modified in English, and that is the round on the left, is the worst one. Well, or less stealthy one anyhow. So just right now in this segment, I just wasted a full minute of your life explaining that stock, this tank has a shell which does not have a trace element in its ass, thereby being stealthy. You're welcome. And that was Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response fan service. I think the Panzer 35T and 38T are kind of overlooked, and I think it's a shame. They're actually very good light tanks. Especially the 38T sitting at battle rating 2.0. The tank has the same cannon, but basically twice the armor value of the two predecessors. And by the way, the T stands for Tschechian, which is German for Czech. When Germany ran over Czechoslovakia, they hijacked their tank production. The Czechs actually made very good light tanks, and Germany was always in need of new armor. Let's quickly go over the pros and cons. It isn't really that much, but there's still something. Super secret stealth ammunition. I know I already mentioned it, but if you find a good position, this round can really help your survivability a lot, especially because you have very little armor. Good cannon. With a 37mm cannon, there isn't really anything you can't pin, and if you have some trouble, you even get an APCR round that can help you out just with the last couple of millimeters. Decent speed. You can get up to 42 km an hour once spaded. It's not the fastest, but it's definitely not the slowest at this battle rating. And some of the cons. Very thin armor. The front of the turret and the hull is protected with 25mm of armor, and that is not a lot. Your sides are even thinner with only 15mm, and that means even a heavy machine gun, once to get close enough, can pin you. Weak engine. You can get up to the 42 km an hour I just mentioned, but whenever we are talking about uphill, you are really struggling, and it doesn't take a lot of percentages of climb before you're getting into issues and the vehicle almost stops. And my usual rants, you don't have access to smoke shells, and you don't get any smoke launchers, and that is really annoying. Here we have the Donier 17E1 sitting at battle rating 1.0. This sleek looking German bomber is the first one they get access to. In fact, it's so sleek that the Germans even had a nickname for it, Fliegender Bleistift, which means the flying pencil. And it's basically just a reference to the slender fuselage. Some of the pros for the Donier: high structural speeds. Wing rip speeds is 650 km an hour, and both combat flaps and landing flaps is basically 500 km an hour, and that is quite rare to see in a bomber of any BR. And even the landing gear has a max speed of 450 km an hour, and that is very, very impressive. Offensive armament. So even though this is a proper twin-engine bomber, it has a little bit of punch. So if needed, you can strafe ground targets and even attack an oncoming fighter, or if you're lucky, get on the tail of another bomber. The light machine gun only has 375 rounds, but it's still enough. And the last pro, which is actually more a passive pro, but still, you are rarely, if ever, going to meet an enemy fighter which is armed with cannons. And some of the cons for the Do 17, slow. So you're rarely going to get up to speeds more than 350 km an hour. So if you can't dive away, everything will and can catch up to you. Limited bomb load. You have very limited options when it comes to bomb loads. You can either carry 10 50 kilogram bombs or 2 250 kilogram bombs. That's it. Disconnected flight characteristics. And I'll come back to that in a minute. For defensive armament. You have very limited defensive armament, and it only consists of 2 light machine guns. They are both being fired from the cockpit area. One is firing below and behind, and the dorsal gunner should be able to shoot at 0 degrees, which basically means straight down the back of the airplane. But that's just not how it works. So if you have an enemy airplane coming directly from behind you, you can't even engage them, and it's super annoying. So you either need to dive or climb in order to engage them with either machine gun.
Our victory is near.
So I've been able to get a new microphone, but I'm still lacking the boom arm, and that's why I can't really do a voiceover when I'm actually playing, since I'm basically sitting with my head down my keyboard right now in order to record this. So that's why I'm not doing in the actual proper voiceover with this gameplay segment. But I should still be able to show you the benefit of having this stealthy round, or the round without a trace element. The distance to the baddies is around 450 meters, so the shell will still have some time in there before it hits anything. The only thing you really need to get used to is that you need to look for splash damage instead of the red tracer. But that little inconvenience is definitely being outweighed by the fact they can't really see where you're shooting from now. Or rather, they can't trace where the shell came from. Firstly, it takes whoever you're shooting at longer time to locate you, and if anybody tries to get a fix on the position, they can't do that by looking at the tracer. This type of shell can be beneficial of all kinds of maps, but I think it's more on longer range maps where the shells have longer flight times you can really see the benefit of the shell. But of course, on a city map like Advance to the Rhine, this can also be super beneficial. Whenever you see shells flying left and right and see tracers everywhere, this can help you hide somewhere in a corner, and you are definitely going to be able to get more shells downrange before you're being seen.
Attention to the designated grid square. Defend the C point.
I mentioned there was some sort of disconnect in the flight characteristics of the Dornier, and this is what I mean. The controls are very light. It almost feels like you're flying a fighter plane, but you're not, you're flying a bomber. And since the controls are so light, it's not helping you, it's actually working against you, because you're not flying a fighter, you're flying a bomber. And what the bomber can do and how it reacts does not correspond with how light the controls are. So for instance, if you're in the bombardier side and want to do some precision bombing, it's very difficult to do so. It takes very little input from the controls in order to make the crosshair swing all over the place. So until you get used to the controls, I suggest you use the 2 250 kilogram bombs. They're much easier to score a kill with because the range of the destruction of the bombs are much larger than the 50 kilogram bombs. That being said, only having 2 bomb drops with the 2 250 kilogram bombs is actually pretty annoying with a bomber of this size. And your other option are the 10 50 kilogram bombs. The TNT content of the 50 kilogram bombs are pretty low though, only 25 kilograms each. And I suggest you drop 2 or 3 at a time in order to make sure you're getting a kill. Well, actually you're not even 100% sure you're getting a kill. But if you're dropping 2 of them very fast, they should land close enough to each other to make a difference. And also mention that the Dornier is pretty slow, and this is not helping in ground RB. So trying to do any fancy maneuvers or acrobatics over the AO is not a good idea. You can do control-wise, but your actual flight characteristics does not correspond well to it. For instance, whenever you are in a turn, you lose a lot of energy and can get very close to stall speed.
Strategic zones are captured.
The T-35 and the two T-38s are definitely worth checking out with their super secret stealth round. And so is the first Do-17 bomber, you just kind of need to figure it out. But that was about it. Please consider subscribing to the channel or give the videos a like. I've added some links in the video description below, both for other relevant videos on the channel, but also for more direct ways for you guys to support the channel if you wish to do so. Thank you for watching, and until next time, remember to deploy your die brakes. Have a good one.